Harman Spark. Is it a worthy replacement for the AT&T Mobley? Let's find out. Hey, I'm Chris with the Mobile Internet Resource Center, here to give you a first hands-on look at the new Harman Spark from AT&T. This is the OBD powered hotspot that plugs into the cartridge slot on a car. Very similar in some concepts to the AT&T Mobley. It's the same sort of plug-in thing, and we've had a lot of people asking us, is the Spark a new Mobley? Since the Mobley is really kind of dated, has a few limitations, not really available anymore. Is the Spark a replacement? And unfortunately, the answer is no. For a lot of reasons, for a lot of people, and we'll explain what the Spark is good for. But the main reason a lot of people loved the Mobley is that the Mobley, well, you could just take it and plug it into a power supply like this and use it anywhere. You didn't have to use it in your car. And even if you were using it in a car, you could set the timeout on it so that it could run basically 24/7, assuming your car had power to the port. Harman Spark, on the other hand, actually talks to your car's computer and knows when the ignition's on and off and will shut itself down if it is not actually in your car, and if the car ignition is not running or within 10 minutes after the ignition shut down. It also detects whether you're actually in motion and so on and so forth. So the Spark, not super useful in that regard. Another thing people liked about the Mobley is you could take the SIM card easily out of the Mobley, and if you had the AT&T Mobley Connected Car plan, though it would technically be in violation of AT&T's terms of service, you could move that SIM card to a regular hotspot and end up with the same data plan that you had on the Mobley, which for a lot of people is a $20 truly unlimited plan. On the Spark, you can get a $30 unlimited plan, but there is no user-accessible removable SIM card, so that you cannot transplant this to a different, more capable device. So let's go take a look at this in the car. So the OBD port's located in different places on every vehicle, but every car since 1996 has one, and a lot of RVs even do if they're gas-powered and based on a more traditional vehicle chassis. Now our Mini Cooper is down here. Which, you have to think, this is not the best place to get cellular reception, down buried in the middle of the car. Devices like the Spark and Mobley make up for it. They're a little bit more powerful than most phones, but they're compensating for being in kind of the worst possible place with no access to antennas. So let's go inside and start the car up. So the only way you can tell if the Spark is actually connected is by a light on it. You can see it goes to be blue or green if the cellular is connected. There is no way to actually see signal strength bars or any more detail, and well, you have to actually use your phone in selfie mode stuck down by your knee to even see if you're connected. It's a very kind of awkward and kind of hard to believe they didn't think that through system. Now, let's see, there's the Wi-Fi network I had created on the Spark. So we are online via the Spark's Wi-Fi. One thing I have discovered is the Spark seems to be routing everything through a proxy server, and we're getting really, really poor ping times. In this case, I'm getting 96 milliseconds. In all my tests yesterday, I was getting 200 milliseconds, whereas my iPhone was getting 20 to 30 millisecond ping times, and the Mobley was getting 40. So the Spark is adding a fifth of a second delay to everything you're doing, even though it was getting decent speeds compared to the Mobley, not compared to an iPhone 10. Now, let's take a look at the Spark app. This is how you control the Spark, and is kind of the special sauce and the reason you might want this if you were really looking for something not so much as a hotspot but as a telematics device. It has a really awful initial setup process. Then let's take a look at the Wi-Fi features you've got. For some reason it's telling me the Wi-Fi is actually turned off here, which is incorrect. Again, a bug in the software. I go over to settings and I can adjust the Wi-Fi settings. And all you can really do is turn the Wi-Fi on or off, set a network name, set a password. You cannot see the signal strength, you cannot see anything else. And then it gives you the warning here that Wi-Fi turns on automatically when the ignition is in the accessory or on position, and turns off automatically 10 minutes after the ignition goes off. And it says Wi-Fi on the home screen is disabled when ignition is off. So we found that the Spark does enforce this. We know that if you have an OBD simulator, basically a hacking tool that pretends that it's a car that is driving, it seems to fool the Spark. Those are available, but it would be very easy for the Spark to start paying attention to, am I moving? Because it's got the bump detection and gyroscopes and everything else on GPS. So at the moment, AT&T and Harman are not enforcing being in an OBD simulator. You have to buy one, but they can easily detect that at any point. So I would not count on that as a long-term workaround to try and use a Spark not in a vehicle that is with the engine running and in motion.
AT&T is pretty clear on the terms of service that they have with this plan.
Yes, that would be a big violation. They've clearly put a lot of effort into making this only useful in a car. And being in a car, you probably already have your phone, which, particularly if you have something like this WeBoost here, you probably have much better speeds and signal than you would get with the Harman Spark that's stuck down by your knees. So it's really kind of hard-pressed to come up with why you'd want to pay $30 a month to have this Harman Spark plan, unless you were really keen on some of these telematic features, like using it to detect if your car is being stolen, or you
can get a plan with just the telematic features. You don't have to get the unlimited data plan to get those.
Yes, that's true. This is an internet access device. Very hard to recommend. Particularly seeing that it has that proxy that slows it down relative to the Mobley is very disappointing. So not sure why you'd want it. That's kind of the conclusion.
So if having in-vehicle unlimited access is important to you, if you're doing a lot of road trips, it may be feasible. Now, what happens after you turn off the ignition?
After you turn off the ignition? I believe it should have a 10-minute timeout, and then the network will shut itself down. And that's basically it. So if you want to sit here in a hot car for 10 minutes, we could prove that, but I've already seen that.
I'm not going to do it. Sorry, viewers.
Yep.
And it's also supposed to, after 30 minutes of being stationary, shut down. Have you tested that?
Yeah, it seems, well, if you're parked in one place, and we haven't sat for 30 minutes in the air conditioning, but yeah, the app tells you that if you're stationary for 30 minutes, even with the engine running, it will shut the Wi-Fi off. So it's kind of designed to not be something that you're using other than on a road trip, so keep that in mind.
All right, and what happens if you take that little gizmo out of the port?
Bing.
It does have a battery.
Yes, you see it has a battery, and I think it's part of how it has its, like, there's been an accident or something alerts. And you see actually the Wi-Fi network just turned off. That light went down, so the Wi-Fi dropped as soon as it was unplugged. And I'll actually get an alert at some point. I'm not sure how long the delay will be, but I'll get an alert on my phone saying your Spark has been disconnected. Go check on your Spark, go plug it in. So they're definitely tracking what you're doing with this cartridge and if you're taking it out of your car.
So, can't remove the SIM card. To put it in another device?
Can't remove the device to use it in someplace other than a vehicle?
So, unless you need an unlimited data plan in
Spark,
your car while it's on and in motion?
Spark is not that hot. So it has a really awful initial setup process. Actually, for the first several days we had the Spark, Spark's serial number wasn't registered in the system, so we couldn't even connect it to AT&T. Eventually, we got it connected after some time on support. But when you've got it here, you can see where your car is parked at all times. You can get alerts. You can turn on a watch it mode, which will actually send you an alert if your car is jostled or moved or towed. Kind of cool. There's a vehicle health report, which theoretically is giving you a report of what's up inside your engine computer, but there's really doesn't give you any detail if you want to kind of actually see anything other than green check boxes. And we know at the moment our vehicle actually does have a check engine light or check systems light because the tire pressure system is broken. This does not actually give us any indication of that. So we're not really sure what it's actually checking. It's just showing us check boxes. And then you can see a driving score, how safely you're driving, and you're
not a very safe driver.
76 is pretty green. And then you can see your most recent trip, where you went, how many hard corners, hard acceleration, hard braking you did, how much fuel you used, how far it was. And well, hey, you can categorize trips as personal or business, which could be useful for record keeping, but the actual Spark gives you no way to get this information out. You can bring up a page here. Bring up the page to view all trips and say I want to just see my trips labeled as business, But it doesn't give you any sort of running total, doesn't give you any way to export this data, to have to just go through and manually transcribe it, which is, you think they thought the feature halfway through and didn't deliver on actually tracking for work versus personal. You can then set up things like, set up a geofence, so if you've got a kid, you can say, hey, don't leave the neighborhood in the car, this area, and you can get an alert if they drive out of the zone. And there's also some features you can hunt for parking or pay for roadside assistance as needed, and if you're in a crash, they will automatically call people on your contact list. So
Okay.